Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Ian Lashley with Matt Gottemeyer. This is a Four Pillar podcast, and we have a special guest today, Wendall Yoder, and he is the owner of the North Main Cafe, and super excited about this. He's a young entrepreneur that's very successful, I think, in one of the hardest industries I believe there is, the restaurant industry. So super excited to have him on today. We're just going to see if we can learn something from him or get kind of his feedback on what he does for his business and stuff like that, how he conducts his life. But real quick, Wendall, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us how long you've owned the North Main and all that good jazz.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on. So I've owned North Main for just over a year now. Worked there for just over 5 years. So that's kind of how long I've been in the restaurant industry in general.
Yeah.
That was your first job in hospitality?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I started there as a dishwasher.
Okay.
Did that for about a month or two before I moved into a barista position.
So you kind of started at the very bottom of the thing, worked your way up. And I know you said you actually bought into the North Main.
Mm-hmm.
So did you always know you wanted to own your own business, or how did you go down that path?
Yeah, I have. I mean, ever since I would say a teenager, I knew I wanted to own my own business. Never knew for sure what I wanted to do. I owned my own small lawn care business for about 5 years before I did this, and so I knew I wanted to do something on my own. Just the freedom of being able to build something,
right?
And never expected it was going to be a restaurant, but it's where we are.
Okay, so what was it about North Main that, I don't know, the light bulb went off in your head and you said, this is what I want to do?
Yeah. So like I said, I mean, I started there. It was a part-time job. Expected it was going to be just kind of temporary. And I really fell in love with just the coffee part of it, especially, but even just the whole hospitality side of it, working with people and the staff. Love working. We have a really close staff, have ever since we have been there, and so that was a big part of it. There's a family inside of it being your income and livelihood as well. But yeah, just working with people and being able to connect to the community is really what got me into it.
Yeah, and for you, I hear this a lot of times in the restaurant industry. I mean, even all businesses right now. Did you do something to overcome the staffing problems? I know there's a lot of. It seems like I've went in there. I know Matt, you've went in there a lot. I mean, I've seen the same server. I mean, that's working there pretty much the whole entire time, which is awesome because you don't see that at a lot of restaurants, which is a big props to you because obviously you're doing something right.
You don't see it in a lot of restaurants in general, but over the last 2 years or so, 3 years, you don't see it at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I'm so thankful for the staff we do have. I mean, it's been seeing other restaurants, seeing other companies struggling with that. I'm just so grateful we've had as little problems we have. And a lot of it, I would say it's just the family we have created with it. I mean, everybody gets along well. They like their work environment. And so even though I know a lot of them, they could go other places, they could probably make more money. They love their job, they love what they're doing, and so that keeps them, and that helps bringing new people in as well.
Right.
If your current employees love what they're doing, they can new people thinking about joining the team, they talk to them, and they can they can see that community there. And also, I mean, there's been times. I'll be honest, I didn't know where some of the next employees were coming from. There was times where, I was I needed somebody, I needed a couple people, and I simply just had to pray. And I was like, hey, God, I need some people here, and trusted him to bring them. And every time those positions have been filled in the right timing.
Yeah.
I would think that you have to give yourself some credit, though. The people that are staying, what are you doing to make that an atmosphere or a family that they want to stay a part of?
Yeah. And I try to make sure that even if I'm not there working alongside them every day, that I am spending that time working alongside of them. I try to make sure I don't make my employees do anything that I'm not willing to do. And so just try to be working alongside of them and so I can see where things are going, how things are operating, to keep that atmosphere healthy and make sure we're, you know, moving in the right direction and keeping everybody where they need to be.
Cool.
Yeah, that's very awesome. What's so what would you say the number one thing you learned from being in business for yourself over the last, you know, however many years you've been doing this? And you said you owned a lawn care business before this. So whenever you're kind of like trying to do your own thing, what's the biggest thing you've probably learned?
Probably patience is the top
which is
thing.
huge.
Yeah, because there's just, you know, especially when you're dealing with people, you're dealing with so many different personalities, and you're dealing with customers, you're dealing with employees. So there's that side of it, learning to, you know, be patient with people and understanding, but then also just patience in general of just, man, when you're doing something, it takes time. Like when you're building a business, it takes a lot of time. It's so easy to try to want everything to happen overnight, and it's not the way it works. You just have to let things work their own way out, and just.
I've experienced that myself with obviously the gym.
Yeah.
You know, when I first started the gym, you know, what I have right now, with like the setup with our big facility and stuff, I wanted to do this in like 3 months.
Yeah.
But that's not how it works.
Right.
You flash forward 6 years later, and it literally took us 6 years to get to this point where we kind of want to do, and it is hard because you have to have that patience, the work ethic, and the constant kind of just grind, like chip away at your goals to get to where you want to be. And it's hard. I mean, I see why there's a lot of people that, you know, just want to go work at a job or whatever, because it can be, you know, I'm sure you've been, you know, almost demoralized or at a point where you're like, man, like, what am I even doing this for? Like, what am I doing this for? But then you push through it and you keep grinding, you keep working hard. Obviously, I like you brought up too. You're obviously faith. You know, your whole thing is faith based. I think that's huge as well, because you know, we draw power and strength through God and pray to Him just to give us strength and guidance to obviously do His will and His work while we're in our businesses, but to push through the hard points as well too.
For sure.
If that was the biggest thing you learned, what was the biggest mistake you made, and how did you fix it?
Now, this one I had to think about for a little bit because I looked over what you gave me. I couldn't pick out one like really big thing. It was kind of, there's a couple things that I think stem from maybe one big thing, but just kind of, for me, I've always been the type to always look for the next best thing, and to kind of be like, almost like, I'm not willing to like work through something, just, you know, always like pushing forward. And so it's made me like, through that, like dumb mistakes that come through that, just like things of you know, whether it's bad financial decisions or not willing to wait something out.
What I've experienced too is not every opportunity, even if it's a good opportunity, doesn't mean you say yes to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I've the same problems.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So I would say it's an ongoing mistake for me that I have to learn from. Yeah.
What do you think what do you try to do to try to make sure you're staying? You know, what I try to tell myself is I want to stay in my lane or whatever. Because if you stay in your lane, or like kind of what your business model is, you know, it helps you maybe not say yes to things that may be a good opportunity, but doesn't mean you say yes to it.
Right.
But like, what's something that you do, or how do you try to stay focused on what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah. I had somebody tell me once that you pick your top like 2 or 3 things that this is your priority, and that really stuck with me. And so just trying to remember that, like you said, like you figure out, you know, what you want to do and stay in that lane. So that's really been helpful for me. Is I say, if, you know, that something might be a good opportunity, but if it's going to take away from what we're already doing, it's probably not a good idea. So try to just stay focused on that. And, you know, sometimes you do step out and you do something that, you know, maybe instantly or a little bit later you figure out, okay, this was not the right thing. But I'm very big on, you make mistakes, but you learn from it.
Right.
You know, every mistake has the potential of being a good lesson and a good experience.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean that's what we even tell our kids when we're teaching our kids jiu-jitsu and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You have to lose. I mean, you have to lose to learn from life. And same thing, the business, whatever. You have to make mistakes. You have to lose. That's how you get better at it.
Yeah.
So how do you balance your kind of fitness, spiritual, family life when it comes to work balance and all that stuff? Because obviously, own our own business, it does get difficult when because even though you have people that help you, you have employees and all that stuff, it sometimes turns into a 24/7 job. And
well, I was just going to ask, how many hours a week would you say you're in that building?
I would say an average of probably 55. Sometimes more, sometimes a little less, but I'd say an average of probably about 55 hours a week.
Yeah. Is that planned or is that like unplanned? Because I know obviously you might be like, okay, I'm going to work 40. I have 40 hours. I'm going to be there, but then you're always going to have 10 to whatever hours that are call offs and stuff like that.
I would say I plan for about 50 of those hours, and then kind of outside of that, it's stuff pops up, something takes longer, I have to fill in for somebody.
Right.
So I usually plan for about 50 hours. I feel like that's a pretty solid week for me. But
absolutely.
Then it can go kind of anywhere from there.
Go to 90.
Right.
90 real fast.
Are there days when you're not in there at all?
There's Sundays sometimes that I'm not in there at all, but since end of July, I don't think there's been a day other than maybe a couple Sundays that I haven't been in.
Well, are you guys even open on Sundays?
No, we're closed Sundays and Mondays.
So pretty much when the restaurant's open, you're there.
Yes, pretty much. And there's times like I'll leave for a while, but then I'm not in at all. I usually go in at least several hours every day.
Yeah.
So what do you do to balance your work life and family and you're not married, right? You're not married.
No.
Okay.
Nope.
So I mean, but obviously family could be your siblings, your mom and dad, all that. So like, how do you what do you do to try to balance everything?
It's hard. It's super hard, and like you said, it's just you can try, and sometimes it's still it turns into less of a balance than you prefer. But obviously, for me, my spiritual life is my number one, so that comes first for me. So I'm in several groups, small groups with my church. So those are kind of that's my top priority, and then. Since I'm not married, family is a little easier for me to balance because, the rest of my siblings, my parents, they all have things to do as well. So it's not quite the same, and then making sure I'm spending time with them. I'm actually back living with with my parents for a short time. But when I was living on my own, I was, made sure I went home at least once or twice a week, eat dinner with them. So with that, and then just kind of, work has to happen. So, while those other things are top priority, work still has to happen. So just trying to constantly find that balance, and it's a constant thing. You can kind of get into a good routine that you said I found a good balance now, but it's always changing. So you always have to stay on top of it.
Where would, I'm assuming, fitness kind of falls at the bottom of your kind of.
It does.
I saw you in here yesterday. That was the first time in a while.
It was the first time in a while. So that's kind of, it's kind of fell at the bottom for me because while it's important, obviously taking care of my body. And so I took a break for a while, and because I said, you know what, I've got to make sure things at work are where they need to be. I need to make sure my mental and my spiritual health is where it needs to be. So I took a break for a while from basically any regular working out at least, and tried to make sure I had all those other things in order. And so, I'm starting back up again with that because that's still obviously very important to me because I got to take care of my body. If my body's failing, those other things aren't going to work either.
Well, you say that. Were you starting to feel run down or stressed out or burn out a little bit?
Yeah.
And then, even though you're maybe not working out, what's your nutrition look like? You obviously, because you look like you're in good shape, right? I mean, you look like you're in good shape. You're not overweight, even though you're not working out. So, I mean, obviously, you probably take your nutrition into consideration, even if you're not exercising.
I do, yeah. So even when I wasn't working out, obviously, I try to stay active even outside of the gym, trying to, I have a puppy that keeps me running around sometimes. So even something like that helps. But nutrition's a big thing, and even that sometimes with being super busy, that's hard. But I do try to make sure I'm eating healthy, eating plenty, but also I try to eat pretty clean most of the time.
What's your favorite thing on your menu?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say if I had to pick one thing out of everything, probably be the cranberry turkey wrap for me.
Really?
That is
I
a
haven't
solid
tried
one.
that.
I do like that one a lot.
Yeah.
The Haven, I think, is my favorite.
That one is really good
Man,
too.
it has like
Yeah.
50 different cheeses on it,
Right,
which is
yeah.
a bunch of meat. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, that one's a really good one.
What's your overall favorite food? I mean, it obviously doesn't have to be on your
Yeah.
menu, but like, what is your favorite food?
I am pretty straightforward. Like I'll eat almost anything. Like I love food in general. I've really learned to love fish, like so any kind of seafood. Salmon is a top one for me, just because it's really healthy. It has
Right.
good proteins, everything. Aside from that, in my mind, you can't go wrong with a good steak and some vegetables like that. If that's all I could eat, it would probably be that.
Hey, that's a good choice for me. I like that. I like pizza though too. I could probably eat pizza every single night. For
Yeah,
dinner.
that is true. You can't go wrong with pizza.
What advice would you give a young entrepreneur that is looking to start their own business, or maybe has started their own business?
I mean, I would say for somebody that's considering it, my first thing would be like, absolutely go for it. But I would say just there's so many things you don't know when you're going into something like that. So I would say find somebody that you know and trust that can help you in that process. Somebody that's already gone through it. Just find somebody that don't be afraid to ask questions. Because more than likely, there's a lot of people that have gone through it. They'd be more than happy to. I know I would be happy to help anybody with that. I'm sure you guys would say the same thing.
He gets people to come in and ask them. I'm thinking they're just out of high school or
Yeah.
college. Hey,
Yeah.
I want to do this. And they, Ian might take them out to lunch and let, just ask away, ask whatever you want.
I think that's awesome because I mean, once you have that wisdom, why not share it?
Yeah, and that's what I've experienced as well too. That's probably one of the things that I learned. When we're first starting, you're nervous because you're like, oh, this guy's super successful, or this person knows, X, Y, Z. So why would they want to spend time with me? They got 10,000 other things to do, but that's like the complete opposite. Those people, like, they love sharing what they've learned to helping other people. Because it's almost like a thing, like an admirable thing that they see, like, oh, this person, wants to do better for themselves, wants to achieve this. Like, I can help them. So yeah, I mean, same thing with you. I'm sure, if anybody comes in and wants to talk to me about the gym business, I'd love to help them, love to talk to them, whatever I can do to help. And I'm sure you're probably the same way.
Well, you mentioned your sister before we started recording. What's her role in your business?
So she works up front, like as a barista, cashier, whatever. But then she also helps run the social media. So I kind of have that split between two girls right now, and she's one of the ones that runs that. Yeah,
that's cool. Have you ever had any other family work there?
Not at this point. Yeah.
No, that's probably fun to have her there, and
it is. I love it. Yeah, it's really nice to be able to, because it kind of is a way for us to reconnect, because our family's close, but still, once you're working with, with them.
Well, and everyone becomes adults. It's not the same.
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you believe gives you the success that you have?
I mean, my first answer is the stereotypical answer that I give all the credit to God. But I think he blessed me with good parents that gave me that work ethic and taught me how to work and gave me the opportunities to kind of do some of my own projects and hobbies that kind of turned into businesses when I was younger. And then just that determination that to see something through, like, because like I said before, like I've always tended to go on to the next best thing, but at the same time, like once I do start something, I want to see it through. So just that determination that, hey, like I've got to make this work.
Right.
And just finding a reason to love what I'm doing. I think it helps you be successful with it because you want to see it through, and you if you love what you're doing, then you're going to figure out a way to make it work.
Do you feel like you have a purpose?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's, to me, that's the only thing that keeps me going. I mean,
right.
Because everybody says, once you own your own business, it's awesome. Like you get to do your own thing, but I'm guessing you would say the same thing. There's days that, man, if you could walk away, you probably would, like in a sense, because it's hard.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think you need a purpose to keep you doing it.
Yeah. I think that's something that a lot of people in their lives today don't have. Mm-hmm. And, I think that's the difference between just having a job because you have to have one.
Right.
And, doing something like what you're doing. and that's what drives you and, fills you up and all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Matt's purpose is for me to make old jokes for him. Old jokes
Old
about
jokes, short jokes. You name it. Never gets old. Every single day.
Even if it's the same joke, I still laugh.
Same joke.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So what's your kind of your 5 or 10 year plan? Like what's next for North Main? Like have you ever thought about you want to open more restaurants or what's your thoughts on that? Because one thing I guess that I think about when you talk about moving on to the next greatest big thing and trying to stay patient and consistent with what you want to do is with me I'm like, okay, you get to a certain point where you have everything running, it's going what you want, like is this it for me, or do I just do this the rest of my life, or like, hey, am I going to go open 5 more restaurants and like so what's your thoughts on that? What do you have planned?
Yeah, so I'm not saying I'll never open another restaurant. That's possible. I wouldn't say that's my top priority at this point. There's some other things, a couple other things we're working on right now, and the one I'm most excited about is a coffee roastery. So I'm in the process of starting a coffee roasting company, essentially.
Oh, okay, very cool. Like your own coffee brand, right?
Yes,
yeah. Okay.
And so that's why for me, it's trying to find ways that, because like you said, you get something to where it's running and operating. It's like, where do I go from here? But finding ways to branch out with that. And so I think once you have something up and running, it creates so many opportunities for you to, branch out. Maybe it's not the exact same thing, but just branch out from there. So I would say 5-year plan is just to continue to build up what we have, but then branch out a little bit, because we've started into like catering and doing more of that type of thing. And then I'm working on the coffee roasting. So that's kind of what we're focused on right now.
Do you like the idea of starting something and getting it going? Is that a big thing for you?
It is. Yeah. That's one thing with taking over a business. To me, it seemed like it didn't take long to get it to where I wanted it to be, because it was already on a strong trajectory of growing and being successful. So that's where, like with the coffee company,
you're starting
from the ground up. That's been so much fun for me. And I love that, because I can, while I have a base kind of to start off of with already owning a business, I'm still having, it's a new experience for me. It's something I've never done before. So starting it from the ground up has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's the same thing I've gotten to, where I'm actually doing my own supplement line now. So same thing at the gym, obviously you can sell your coffee brand at your coffee shop. The same thing that I thought is, hey, let's do our own supplement line, with protein powder, all that good stuff. And we could sell it here, because it goes hand in hand with our core business.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's the thing. It's different, but it also goes right with what you're already doing.
Yeah.
Is North Main a one and only? Meaning, is it only for Mount Vernon, or could you see yourself, even if you call it something different, the same kind of business in Fredericktown or Danville or anywhere?
I could see potentially branching out. I don't think that's where I think if we were to open up another location, it would probably have to be outside of Mount Vernon. Yeah. So I could see it potentially maybe going to another probably nearby town.
But same kind of menu, same kind of vibe. And all that. Yeah.
Because I feel like we've kind of learned that little niche really well.
And you're good at it, so why?
Right, yeah. Because, why try to go with something completely different if you don't know, so.
I mean, if Lisa and I talk about going to lunch or breakfast, we don't even ask where. It's your place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think the best breakfast and lunch place in town. That's where I'm always going. Yeah. Your guys' coffee is really good as well too. I don't know if you've been putting your magic roast in the little those coffee things out there. But I've actually been stopping in. I'll just get like a medium sized black coffee. Just I don't know what you do to it, but it just has a really good flavor.
Good.
It's not just, like a lot of like black coffees too will give you like acid reflux.
Yeah.
As well too, depending on the blend or whatever. Yeah. And yours guys doesn't, so it's very very delicious.
Good. That's what I like to hear.
Well, do you have anything else like you want to share, like just any other advice or anything that you've learned? Do you actually? What about this, really quick? Mentorship, whatever. You said finding other people to, give you ideas or give you their wisdom, stuff like that. Do you have a mentor like in the restaurant business?
I don't right now, and that's why one of the reasons why I say if you do have somebody like that, hold on to that, find
Because
that
you
person,
didn't.
because I didn't.
Yeah.
And I obviously, like the previous owners, I still have a really good relationship with them. So in some ways, like there was some things I could ask them, but for the most part, I just had to kind of figure it out, which was okay. I mean, that worked, but I could see a lot of value in having a mentor that already, knows and has gone through a lot. So I've had other people outside of, I mean, my dad has owned his own business. My brothers
Yeah.
have owned their own businesses. So I can still get advice from them as far as business wise. So I've had those people that I can reach out to, and kind of, ask questions, bounce ideas off of.
That's cool.
Yeah, very cool.
I'm good. Who decides the monthly specials? Is that you, or does everyone get to pitch in with their own
Yeah.
ideas?
So sometimes I kind of help with that, but I've turned that basically over to the managers.
Yeah.
Kind of let them do their own creative thing with that. And, I always try it, and they always, try to make sure that it's something I like to and approve of. But I've kind of tried to turn that over to them. Because, they need their own creative outlet with it.
Okay, that does lead to another question. Do you like giving other people responsibilities, or do you like kind of overseeing everything and making sure everyone's? Or can you hand something to someone and say, "This is yours. I trust you," and go with it?
That's my heart with it, is to be able to hand things off to other people and watch them do it. Because I know for me, like even like within this and also other things, whenever somebody was willing to hand something off to me and say, "Hey, here's this for you to do, go do it. I trust you." To me, that's a big confidence boost, because, hey, this person knows what they're doing, but they're handing it off to me to do. So I've been trying to do that within, with my own staff, because seeing the people that are really good at things and being like, "Hey, you do this, like this is yours to do." And I still oversee it, a lot of it at this point, just because, since it hasn't been super long, just to make sure that like it's actually working. But I do like to be able to hand things off, and because when you watch
some off your plate,
it
too.
does.
Yeah.
It really does. And I think that's what is part of balancing that work-life balance, is being able to handle some of those responsibilities off to other people.
That was actually my next question with like staff delegation. What's been your experience about that, or like what's some things you try to do to help you? Like what's the appropriate amount of staff I need for this location? 'Cause I think that's really tricky when you start talking with people at business, that obviously that I've had to deal with too, is okay, how many people do you actually need to hire to do this job? Do you need a manager? How many managers, and all this stuff? Especially when you start thinking about you getting bigger, you're trying to do delegation and stuff like that. But like, what's some tips or whatever you've done to try to help balance, not over hiring, not under hiring, all that good stuff?
It's hard. We're kind of at the place where we're at the max of how many employees we can have within what we're doing right now. Obviously, if we start branching out into more things, that'll change. But just kind of, for me, I figure out kind of where I can step out, and at that point somebody else has to step in. Or if it's something I can cover, I say, "Hey, we don't need another person for that particular job or position." It's just kind of, I think too, you can kind of watch your staff and see if they're overworked, it's time to bring some more people in. But also if there's people standing around doing nothing, it's like, okay, we probably have too many people here. So I think it's just a lot of it's just paying really close attention to.
Well, you are doing some catering now? Mm-hmm. Okay, so do you have people who, like, do you have a man or woman who manages the catering and people who just does catering, or are they all, they can work at North Main and do some catering, and it's all kind of the same group of people?
So I have a catering manager that is basically running that. So as we're like setting it up, he's figuring a lot of the things out. But he also does work at North Main part of the time too. So we kind of, with some of that, we do, kind of have people that can dual purpose with that.
Yeah, which I think it's hard, in a small business, because you're not like Amazon where you can be like, I can just have this person do one job.
Right.
If you have to pay this guy a salary, for example, and you're going to get him X many hours. If he's only going to take 20 hours doing the catering, well, hey man, you're going to come over here and work in the work in the shop, as well for X amount of hours too.
Yeah, because I mean that's the hard thing with small business, is you don't have that much extra cash flow just sitting somewhere to be, start something and pay somebody right off the bat to do that.
You'd probably like to someday.
Yeah,
but it's not right now.
Right.
Yeah.
We're getting into the business talk here. I got another question for you.
Yeah.
Have you had to fire somebody?
One time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it horrible?
It was horrible.
Yeah.
I hated it. Yeah.
For you or for them?
Probably both. It was probably, I mean, it was the only time I ever had to fire somebody, but in my opinion, it had to be probably one of the best experiences because they knew why, like they understood.
Yeah.
And so the conversation went well. Like there was no like hard feelings on either side, but it's difficult to do. Like definitely.
Even if they kind of justified, I mean, you said they knew why.
Right.
So
yeah,
if they were doing something where they're aware of it, it was still hard on you to do that.
it was because, it's still like they weren't asking to leave. So I'm telling you, you're done. Like,
right.
So it's still hard.
Did you do it on a Friday?
It was on a Saturday, so it was end of the week. So yeah,
Gotcha.
Yeah,
He didn't come back and shoot the place up.
no, no. There's no sabotage, so that's good.
Good. Well,
yeah. Thanks for coming in, Wendell. Do you want to put a plug in for your restaurant and stuff, or tell us about North Main real quick, where it's located, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we're just north of the square, basically 1 block north of the square, right across from the YMCA. So definitely stop by if you need some food or some coffee, and we're happy to fix you up.
one last question. What would your employees say about you?
Oh,
that's a good question. Honestly, I'd love to hear them. I'd love to hear this from them. So ask them next time you're
Okay.
in.
Matt, what would you say? What would you say? What would you say about me?
We don't have time for that. we couldn't do it in 5 minutes.
Wonderful. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Wendell, for coming in. And this is the 4 Pillar Podcast. We stand for faith, family, fitness, and finance. 4 pillars to live life, essentially. And we had Wendell in. He owns North Main Cafe, located here in Mount Vernon, Ohio. Most delicious place. Get some breakfast and lunch. Just stop in and take try it out and go see him. So thanks for listening.